Hello and welcome to the She is Courageous podcast, your weekly reminder that courage comes before confidence and mindset is where it starts. I'm Shelley Bosworth, business mindset coach, helping women to stop holding themselves back and start showing up boldly in business, work, and of course life. This podcast is your nudge to ditch the self-doubt, quieten the overthinking, and take action that builds real confidence. Because she is courageous and she is you. Hello and welcome back to the She is Courageous podcast. Now, I've been thinking about this episode for a little while and I've kind of gone back and forth on how to position this because it started with, as often is the case, a little bit of self-reflection, a little bit of noticing some things happening with some of my clients. And then as I started to think about that, I started to think about, gosh, this is really relevant for women in leadership roles. But when I talk about women in leadership roles, I don't just mean women in corporate environments with big C-suite titles. When I talk about women in leadership roles, I mean women that lead businesses, their own or someone else's. I mean women that lead teams, okay? And this conversation today is for every single woman in any form of leadership role. And there's probably a whole other podcast about defining leadership, but I want to talk about the pressure that women particularly put on themselves to seem like they've got it all together. The pressure that you are putting on yourself perhaps right now to be the one that has all the answers, to be the calm one, to be the strong one, to be the one that other people come to. And as I said, this came from really recognizing in myself in the last few weeks, last couple of months, that I put so much pressure on myself to show up as Shelley the coach and be there for other people as we navigate really difficult things, that actually what I wasn't doing was considering what I needed. And what I wasn't doing was considering, well, where do I go? Now, I realised it quickly and I made a point of doing something about it. And I don't want to make this episode about me because that's never the point. The point is always to make it useful and relatable to you. And the reason I share where these things show up for me is because I always want to keep it real and I always want to make it feel real. Now, I'm often, as a coach, I'm holding space for lots of other people. I'm the eldest of 4 children. My sisters would probably tell you I don't really hold a lot of space for them these days. But I've always been the one, often been the one that holds it together for other people. I'm often the one bringing the energy to the room, making people laugh, making people, helping people feel calmer, helping them feel better. That's what I do. But there are also times when I have to let that give, there are times when I don't have that to give. There are times when I don't feel full of energy, when I haven't felt like the upbeat one, when I don't have all the answers. And I'm wondering if that resonates for you right now as you're listening. Because what I found really revealing, particularly as I noticed this again recently, this is a recurring pattern for me. It wasn't just that I felt that way, but that I then was putting pressure on myself to not say it. Nobody was asking me to hide anything. Nobody was asking me to show up for everybody. Nobody had said, Shelley, we need you to be the strong one right now. Nobody put that demand on me except me. So let me ask you, how often are you putting that demand on yourself? How often are you telling yourself you need to show up for others, be there for everyone else, be the upbeat one, have all the answers? That's what I want to get into today, because this is not just about me. If it is, drop me a message. And if it isn't, drop me a message. I think this shows up for women in all kinds of leadership roles. And again, I come back to what do I mean by leadership? Yeah, okay, let's talk about the obvious. Maybe you lead a team. Maybe you run your own business. Maybe you're the eldest sibling. Maybe you're a mum and actually you lead the family. Maybe you're just the one in your friendship group that people naturally turn to. Maybe you're always the sensible one. Maybe you had to step up early in life. Maybe you've built a reputation for being really capable. Like I built a reputation for being very independent. And over time, that compounds. We create this for ourselves. We become the one who just gets on with it, the one who steps naturally into leadership. Like I had leadership roles. I was always the one that stepped naturally into the leader role in friendship groups. No one asked me to do that. But what happens is people start to rely on you. You build something. People start looking towards you, looking up to you. And somewhere along the line, you find yourself, without even realizing it, deciding that you need to have it all sorted. Not because other people are telling you do, but because you're telling yourself you do. And that can get really lonely. And that's what I want to talk about today. People often say it's really lonely at the top, leadership is really lonely. And it can be if you let it. Because loneliness is not just about leadership. It's about feeling like you have to manage how you're seen. It's the pressure of thinking, if I say I'm not sure, if I admit this feels hard right now, if I show I don't have enough to give, what will that do to how people see me? What this is really about is fear about vulnerability. It's about what you believe honesty might cost you. Perhaps you worry it will change how you're seen, or that people will trust you less. Perhaps you like having the label of being the one who's got it all together, the one that's great in a crisis. Oh, I just said that because I think that's one of mine. But what happens is we end up performing. And I don't use that word lightly. And by performing, I don't mean like some ridiculously over-the-top situation. I mean we put on a performance. We keep showing up, keep saying the right thing, keep holding it together. Keep being who we think people need us to be. This is what happens when we put this pressure on ourselves. I wonder as you're listening to this, if this is resonating. I'd love you to drop me a message on Instagram if it is. The handle's in the show notes. Because look, when we do this, when we wear the mask, the smile, we keep showing up, we keep saying the right thing, we keep holding it together, we keep being who we think people need us to be, it's exhausting. Because here's what then happens. You end up carrying two things. What's actually going on for you and the effort of managing how you appear while it's going on. And I just want you to think about that for a second. None of this is about whether you are capable of carrying both of those. It's about, do you need to do that to yourself? Think about how you're managing your own feelings, but then potentially managing yourself to still show up for everybody else so they don't see how you might be feeling a little off right now. No wonder energy drops. No wonder we feel heavier. No wonder we start second guessing ourselves. Because now you're not just dealing with reality, you're managing an identity. And this is where I think it's worth pausing and asking yourself something really simple. When do you switch? If this is resonating for you, I want you to think about, when do you go from this is how I actually feel to this is how I think I need to show up? Because that moment, that split second, that's the moment that changes everything. Back in my corporate world, I was very fortunate that I was fortunate enough to experience a number of different personality profiling tests, I guess. And I decided when I came out of corporate and became a coach that I wanted to be accredited, qualified to use these. And so I did DISC personality profiling training. I am a qualified DISC profiler. And this DISC is really, really interesting. I'll put a link in the show notes about DISC, because DISC stands for dominant, inspiring, steady, compliant. Basically, they're personality types. But what DISC does is it shows you at your core kind of your hardwiring of your profile, but it also shows you how you think you are supposed to show up. It's specifically aimed at the corporate world. And so what it does is it shows you this is how you really are. And so you might be very action driven, you might be very much about other people, you might be very methodical and logical, but you might think that it's not good to be like that. And so it shows you how you dial up and dial down certain core behaviours. That's what this is about right now. This is about when you think you need to be something you're not, when you think you need to behave in a way that you don't, when you've created some kind of persona, because that's when everything changes. But if you can start noticing that, You have a choice. And I want to help you with that choice today in this episode. I want you to think about, where does this happen? Because what I want you to do is notice it, and then I want you to do this. I want you to start being honest somewhere. Even if it's just with yourself as a starting point. I want you to be honest with yourself about where you're not certain about something, where you don't have the energy right now, where something feels heavier than you expected it to. Because if you don't acknowledge it, if you don't notice it, if you don't name it, it just stays in your head. And when it stays there, it grows. When it stays there, it turns into overthinking, hesitation, going round and round in circles on decisions that you are more than capable of making, by the way. Because you're not just holding your own doubt, you start holding everybody else's as well. Because you support others, you steady others, you help them process what's going on, but you're taking all of that in. And while you've got nowhere to put your own, if you're taking on all of theirs, that's just too much. So I want you to be really honest with yourself. Where are you performing? And what's the switch? Like, where's the trigger almost? When does this happen the most? And if you could start with one place in your life this is happening. Now, I talked at the very beginning about leadership roles. And like I said, that's not just at work. Maybe you have a leadership role in the family. But this is pressure we put upon ourselves. So we need to notice it. And then we need to start to admit to it. And here's the real key. Find yourself one place, one space where you are not performing, where you get to be you, where you get to be vulnerable and open and honest. You might still need to wear the mask and the performance of got it all sorted over here, but find somewhere where you don't need to do that. Just one. It might be one person, one conversation, one space where you don't have to be the strong one, where you don't have to have all the answers, or any of the answers, quite frankly, where you don't have to hold it all together. If you don't have that right now, that is something to really look at, because everybody needs that. Now for me, that's my coach and my two best friends. And my husband, of course, I should have said that. Now for me, that's my husband, my coach, and my two best friends. And honestly, they all hold space for different elements of me needing to be honest and vulnerable. There are things I tell my friends I don't say to my husband. There are things I tell my husband that I don't say to my coach. There are things I say to my coach that I don't say to any of the others. But I have those spaces where I can go, do you know what, I'm holding it together for everybody else over here, but actually I need someone to hold space for me. Not to fall to pieces, but to be able to say, whew, this is tough. Oh, I don't have all the answers. I'm not quite sure how to navigate this. I just need to let it out. If you don't have that, that's something to look at. Because leadership, be that in the business sense or the personal sense, self-leadership does not mean doing life alone. It definitely does not mean you have to do any of this tough stuff, business stuff, life stuff on your own. You do not have to keep proving you've got it sorted. So I want you to really notice, where are you over-explaining? Where are you jumping in with the answers? Where are you taking responsibility for how everyone else feels? Where can you step back? You don't have to fill every gap, by the way. You don't have to constantly reinforce that identity. This isn't about becoming open for the sake of it. It's about stopping the belief that you have to, as a leader, be that personally or professionally, that you have to be emotionally perfect. Because you don't, no one does. I've used the phrase a lot recently, two things can be true at the same time. You can be okay and not okay. You can be steady and stable and still have moments where you're unsure of something. You can be strong and have low energy. You can lead well and not have all the answers, but only if you stop trying to carry all of that internally. So this week, I'm going to leave you with this. I'd always want to say to you now, press pause, get a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil and write these things down. Where have you decided that it's your job to have it all together? Where in your life have you decided that is your job to have it all together? Where in your life are you performing instead of being really honest? And where does your doubt go? Because I say this all the time. My goal is not that you never have doubt. That would be an impossible goal. And I'm sorry if you don't like hearing that. There's a load of people that will tell you, I can remove all your self-doubt. Well, I can't. And I won't pretend I can. But what I can help you with is somewhere to take your doubt and work it through. Because your doubt needs somewhere to go. So I don't think the work for you right now is becoming stronger. It's giving yourself permission to stop acting like you have to be. Just want to leave you thinking about those things this week. Now, if this episode has resonated for you, I would love you to reach out in the DMs on Instagram, which is my favourite place to be, or drop me an email. Where are you trying to keep it all together and not giving yourself space for your own doubt to go? Because we all need somewhere to go. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next time on the She is Courageous podcast.